Hi students, welcome back to the next part of this chapter, and in this part we will cover a lot many other topics. In the previous slide, in the previous video, we covered who is MLA, how the MLA is elected, and so on and so forth. Now in this video, the very first topic that we are going to cover is the role of Parliament. So moving forward to the next slide, and we could see that. Alright, so let me just introduce you with the very basics of the Parliament. So basically, Parliament is divided between two houses, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So Lok Sabha is called the lower house, and Rajya Sabha is called the upper house. For now, just let's assume that there are two houses. In the further slides, we'll discuss what is the Lok Sabha, what is the Rajya Sabha, what are their functions, and so on and so forth. For now, just let's say that there are two houses. One is Lok Sabha and the other is Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha is the lower house and Rajya Sabha is the upper house. Now, basically, what happens after every 5 years, there are elections of the Lok Sabha, and the elected representatives of the Lok Sabha are directly elected by the citizens of the country through the process of voting, like it happened in the election of the members of the Legislative Assembly, that is MLA. In the same pattern, the members for the Lok Sabha are being elected by the citizens of the country after each 5 years, and the members of the Lok Sabha are basically called as the member of the Parliament. Now let's understand that how are these members, the member of the Parliament, are elected. Alright. So as I told you guys that each state has constituencies, and each constituency have an elected representatives who is further known as MLA, member of the Legislative Assembly. Now in the similar pattern, the member of the Parliament are also elected. How? So each state has been allocated some number of seats on the basis of the size and the population of that particular seat. Now, how does it basically happens? Let's say that Maharashtra has been allocated 20 seats, whereas Himachal Pradesh has been allocated 10 seats according to the size and the population. Now, 20 and 10 are just the hypothetical figures and not the real ones. It is just to make you understand better. Please don't take it seriously. These are just the imaginary figures that we have assumed in order to make you understand easily. Alright, so we assume that there are 20 seats in Maharashtra and there are 10 seats in Himachal Pradesh. The government has allocated 20 to Maharashtra and 10 to Himachal Pradesh. Now let's assume that there are three ruling parties in the country right now, the Aam Aadmi Party, Congress and Bharatiya Janata Party. So there are only three. It's not the exact true figure. There are more than three, but for to make the example more simpler to understand, we are assuming that there are three parties: Congress, Bharatiya Janata Party, and Aam Aadmi Party. Right? So there are 20 seats, and there are three parties, and there are different seats for different states. So the total of all the seats comes up to 543. Okay, the total states comprising of all the states will come. Total of 543. Now what happens? How is the member of Parliament elected? Let's understand that. Now, as we assumed that there are 20 seats in Maharashtra, so let's just say that this is Maharashtra. Okay, and there are 20 seats. These are all seats that I'm making. I won't be able to make 20, but just keep that in your mind that there are 20 seats in Maharashtra, which is again a hypothetical figure, not the real one, in case you wonder that this is the real figure. This is not a real figure, and there are 20 states. Alright, so now for each state, this was a bad diagram, let me make another one. Alright, so let's say SC 2020, there are 1 karke, there are 20 seats. Alright, the entire Maharashtra is being divided into 20 seats. Now what happens is, this is the city, this is the state. I'm so sorry, Maharashtra is a state. So this is the entire state which has been divided into 20 seats. Alright, now this is a small region, this is a small region, so basically in the similar manner how the constituencies were being divided in the case of the election of MLA, in the same manner there are 20 seats. That means there are 20 constituencies. Alright, and for each constituency there will be members who will stand out to get elected, right? And there will not one member, there will be 5 to 6 candidates who will come up to get elected, who will do campaigns in order to get the vote and become the member of the Parliament for that particular constituency. So let's say that there are 3 members who are fighting for this constituency. There are 3 members. Since we since I told you that let's assume that there are three ruling parties, Aam Aadmi Party, Bharatiya Janata Party and Indian National Congress. So three candidates have been, they are standing in the elections to get elected. One is from Bharatiya Janata Party, one is from Congress, and one is from Aam Aadmi Party. And the one that gets the majority votes will become the member of the parliament for this particular constituency. So the maximum member of parliament can be 20, since the constituencies is is 20, but it doesn't it's not a rule that there should be 20. There could be less than 20 also. Now basically what happens is that people give vote according to where they live. Now since we saw that this entire Maharashtra has been divided into 20 constituencies, 20 seats, and for each constituency there will be a member of parliament who will be elected by the people. Now we said that since this is, let's say this is one of the seats amongst the 20 seats, and there are three candidates who are standing in the elections to get elected, and the one that will get the majority vote from the citizens will be the elected representative, will become the member of the parliament. And let's say that the person who gets the majority votes belong to the Bharatiya Janata Party, and the similar case of voting happens in all the 20 states. Now basically if someone is living near this region, near this constituency, will vote for this constituency. The person who lives near this constituency will vote for this constituency, and the candidates who will be standing in each constituency basically will be different, right? And at the end, once the result has been out, they see that which party elected representatives of which party have been elected the most. Now let's say कि यहाँ पर 3 candidates were standing to get elected, and one of them belonged to Bharatiya Janata Party, one of them belonged to Aam Aadmi Party, and one belonged to the Congress, right? Now this could happen in every constituency. Now let's say in this constituency there are two candidates who wants to get elected as the member of the parliament. One belongs to Bharatiya Janata Party and the other belongs to Congress. There is no candidate of the Aam Aadmi Party in this constituency, and so the citizens of this constituency have to elect between these two. And let's say the member of the candidate of the Bharatiya Janata Party gets elected. Now in this case, 2 constituencies have been won by Bharatiya Janata Party. At the end of the result of all these constituencies, let's say this has been won by the member of the Aam Aadmi Party, let's say this has been won by the member of the Congress. So this is calculated at the end when the results get out, the voting process is over, and the party which has the maximum elected representatives becomes the ruling party, amongst which the prime minister is being chosen. So this becomes a little complicated. This process is complicated, but if you will hear the video again and again, I am sure that you will be able to understand. But for just the simpler explanation, I'll just explain you once again that there are 20 constituencies, as we studied in the case of the member of the Legislative Assembly. In the similar way, there are 20 constituencies. Let's say there are 20 constituencies in Maharashtra, and for each constituency there are, let's say, 3 members. There are no fixed candidates who stand for the election. There could be 2, as I told you, that there could be 3 from here, there could be 2 from here, there could be 2 from here, there could be 3 from here. So the numbers are basically not fixed. There could be 5 from here. Now there could be different, or the number could be different, but at the end of the day, the people choose amongst the 3 candidates. For example, as I told you, that since this is a constituency and the 3 candidates have stand out to get elected, now amongst those 3, the person who will get the maximum number of votes will become the MP of this constituency and become the member of the Lok Sabha. And we'll see that the member that has been elected, the candidate that has been elected in this constituency, whether belong to Aam Aadmi Party or Bharatiya Janata Party or Congress. Now let's say after the result of the entire states, we come to a conclusion that out of 20, 11 elected representatives belong to BJP. So this becomes the ruling party. This is just an example of one state. We calculate for all the states, and let's say that in Himachal also maximum representatives are elected which are the member of BJP. And let's say since the total seats are 543, in amongst 543, 270 are the elected representatives which belong to the BJP. So in this case, BJP becomes the ruling party in the Lok Sabha, and all these members amongst them make a choice and elect the Prime Minister. We'll understand this again and again in the other slides, so don't worry, since it's a little complicated process. Okay, so what happens is, as I told you, that there are 543 seats. The parliament consists of the president, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. To form a government, a party must have a majority of the MPs in the Lok Sabha. Now what basically happens is, as I told you, that at the end of the voting, when the results come out, they basically see that all the elected representatives that has been chosen by the people from each constituencies, if the majority are the members or the candidates who belong to BJP, they will become the ruling party. But there is a term and condition that if they become the ruling party or not. In case the elected representatives, the number of elected representatives are more than 272, only then they will become the ruling party. Otherwise, they do not become the ruling party. If in case that the elected representatives that have been chosen are 270, even if they are in majority, but they are not 272, they does not become the ruling party. All right, and the ruling party chooses the prime minister. So in order to be the ruling party, the majority, the maximum elected representatives should cross the number of 272. The parliament consists of the president, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. To form a government, a party must have a majority of MP, that is more than 50%, which is 272 in the Lok Sabha. All right, so what happens is that there are total seats 543 and plus 2, which makes 545. Those plus 2 belongs to the Anglo-Indian. Anglo-Indian are basically belongs to the community of the family, Anglo Indian communities. Anglo-Indian belongs to that community wherein if there is a child, his father is a foreigner and mother is an Indian. So in that case, the president chooses 2 people from that particular community wherein the father is a foreigner and he's not an Indian, whereas the mother is an Indian. So in this particular exclusive case, the president chooses 2 people directly. That is not through direct elections. That is, the president themselves chooses 2 people from that particular community. So 2 seats are reserved for that community. So majority should be 272, as I told you. So 2 nominated Anglo-Indians, as I told you again, and the time period is 5 years. After each 5 years, elections are held for the Lok Sabha as well as for the Legislative Assembly, that is the MLA. Lok Sabha is the MP. Members of the Lok Sabha are the MP. Leader is the Prime Minister. So in case that Bharatiya Janata Party win with 272 elected representatives, now they become the ruling party. And after they have become the ruling party, amongst all those MPs that belong to Bharatiya Janata Party, all those MPs which are a part of that Bharatiya Janata Party, they will, by the common consensus, make the Prime Minister. Okay, amongst all the MPs that belong to Bharatiya Janata Party, they will basically decide by the general agreement and make a Prime Minister. Now after that, the Prime Minister elects the other ministers, Finance Minister, Health Minister and other cabinets, which we will understand in the next slide. Yeah, so in this particular slide, we could see that as leader of the ruling party in the Lok Sabha, which is called as the Prime Minister, who belong to the party to form the cabinet. Now what happens is, after the BJP has become the ruling party in the parliament, all the members of the parliament of that particular ruling party will decide the Prime Minister amongst them. Once the Prime Minister is being elected, Prime Minister chooses to elect the other ministers. That could be Finance Minister, Health Minister, Sports Minister. So this is what we say to form the cabinet or executive. Prime Minister chooses to elect the cabinet and the executives, which refers to the other ministers of the other specialty, like the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Education. So Prime Minister basically elects them. Moving on, coalition government. Okay, all right. So let's understand what is a coalition government. As I told you, that in order to become the ruling party, a particular party should have more than 272 or 272 elected representatives in their party, right? But sometimes there could be a possibility that any of the party, neither of the party gets 272 or more elected representatives. Now what happens in this case? Let's take a very simple example. Let's assume that Bharatiya Janata Party gets 164 votes while Aam Aadmi Party gets 220 votes, okay, and Congress Party get 5 votes. Let's just assume this is again a hypothetical situation. So in this case we assumed that BJP and Aam Aadmi Party got 220 votes and they got 164 votes, and the Congress, let's assume that there are only 3 parties and Congress gets, let's say, 5 elected representatives, right? 5 MPs. So in this case, even though Aam Aadmi Party is in majority and the second one is BJP, still Aam Aadmi Party does not become the ruling party, since in order to become the ruling party, the number should be 272. 272 MPs should be elected from this party in order to become the ruling party. But it hasn't crossed that number, but it is still is in majority. But still it wouldn't become the ruling party until it gets 272 votes. Now what happened in this case? If this scenario comes up, what will happen? So in this case, Aam Aadmi Party can basically, or BJP and Aam Aadmi Party can, by a common consensus, a general agreement, can combine their government. So when we combine the votes of 164 and 220, we'll get a larger number than 272, and the objective to become the ruling party will get solved. And so BJP and Aam Aadmi Party will come together by the common consensus, and both of them will become one coalition government and they will become the ruling party. So this is what is the coalition government, where political parties sometimes join together with the different political parties with similar concerns to form a coalition government. Now in case that Aam Aadmi Party gets 220 votes and Bharatiya Janata Party gets 164 votes, now in this case neither of the two has got the majority votes, so they can form one government which is called as the coalition government. Alright, and their votes when get added will be more than 272, so they can, by common consensus, if they come together to form one government, one coalition government, they can come in majority, because then the votes will go more than 272. This was a very hypothetical example, just to make you understand that what is a coalition government and how a coalition government is formed. Alright, moving on. Okay, so as I told you that there is a Lok Sabha and there is a Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha is the lower house and Rajya Sabha is the upper house. The Rajya Sabha plays an important role in reviewing and altering the laws initiated by the Lok Sabha. Now basically what happens is, alright, so Rajya Sabha is basically the upper house, which is also known as the Council of the States, since it represents the governance of the states. Rajya Sabha represents the governance of the state, and the members of the Rajya Sabha are directly elected by the members of the parliament in the Lok Sabha. They are not directly elected by the people, but they are elected by the member of the legislative assembly. MLAs basically elect the members of the Rajya Sabha, and Rajya Sabha is also called as the Council of the State, since it represents the governance of the state. And also, if you might not know, if when the legislative body makes a law, it is first written on a bill that this is the new law that has been made. Let's, for example, a bill has been made on which it's mentioned that the traffic rules are now more stricter, and the person who won't follow it will have to pay the fine of rupees 2000. So this is the new law that has to be made. Now to become a law, it first has to be written on the bill. A bill has to be passed in the Lok Sabha, and then it has to be passed in Rajya Sabha to become the law, actual law. The laws cannot become directly. First it has to be passed in Lok Sabha, then it has to be passed in the Rajya Sabha. Then the president basically acts on the law that has been created. So first a bill is created, then it has to be passed from Lok Sabha to Rajya Sabha, and then the president follow. So that is why it is written that the Rajya Sabha plays an important role in reviewing and altering the laws initiated by the Lok Sabha. That any law that has been made, which is written on the bill by the Lok Sabha, is to be first passed in the Lok Sabha. Then the bill has to be passed in the Rajya Sabha. If in case it doesn't get passed in the Rajya Sabha, the bill won't become the law. The bill will just be the bill on which new policies and laws are written. The bill has to be passed in the both houses. Then it becomes the law. And yeah, they are elected by the member of the legislative assemblies, but the total members shouldn't exceed 250 members. It should be either 250 or less than 250, and out of those 250, 238 members are elected by the member of the legislative assembly, whereas the 12 members are basically directly elected by the president. The president directly chooses these 12 members. Now, how do president make such a choice? Basically, for example, Sachin Tendulkar was the member of the parliament which was directly elected, which was directly selected by the president. Now, what happens is that any person who has who has done a lot of in that particular field, for example, Sachin Tendulkar is an inspiration to cricket, and he has done way too good things in in respect to career, in respect to cricket. He has achieved a lot in cricket, so he was basically made the member of the parliament in respect to the sports. So this can be done by the president if in case some person has excelled in one particular field, like Sachin Tendulkar has achieved a lot in cricket. In the similar pattern, if someone else had achieved a lot in some other field, that person can be directly elected as a member of the parliament by the president. Moving forward, all right. So, to control, guide, and inform the government. What do we mean by this? A session in the parliament begins with a question hour, during which MPs can ask questions. The opposition also plays a key role in democracy. Now, as I told you, that the member of parliament are elected by the citizens of the country, right? Now, what happens is, now let's take an example and understand that let's say that the BJP has become the ruling party. BJP has become the ruling party. As I told you, in order to become the ruling party, the maximum number of votes that we want are 272 or more than 272. So now let's assume that BJP got 280 votes and became the ruling party, all right? And Aam Aadmi Party had 100 votes. So it was basically the second maximum votes. This party got the second maximum votes. And now let's assume that Congress has 50 votes. So it is quite evident that Aam Aadmi Party has the second maximum votes, but the maximum are the BJP. So BJP directly becomes the ruling party without any collision, and Aam Aadmi Party has got the second maximum votes. Now, in this case, any party that has got the second maximum votes becomes the opposition party. Now, what is the role of the opposition party? Basically, opposition party can question the ruling party that how are the laws being enacted and what are the new rules and regulations and such, so on and so forth. So basically, it can question the ruling party on any particular topic that is going on in the country, any act, any law. It can actually question the ruling party. It basically has the role to oppose and question whether everything is done properly, whether every act has been busted, whether how are the laws being implemented. So it can basically question anything to the ruling party. The opposition party can question anything to the ruling party, and in this case it is quite good, because then the ruling party is in a pressure to work better towards the welfare of the society. So opposition party plays a very vital role in questioning the ruling party about anything and everything in the country, and so this creates a pressure in the ruling party to work much more better. And this way we can say that the opposition party kinds of control and inform the government by questioning the ruling party. Alright, so there are some questions. If you were a member of parliament, list 2 questions that you would like to ask. Alright, since it's a recorded video, you guys cannot answer the question. You cannot ask me the questions if you were the member of the parliament. But if I were the member of the parliament, I would ask 2 questions. The very first is that what measures is the government taking in order to basically get everybody vaccinated? And the second question that I like to ask is that is it safe to reopen the colleges and schools? And if yes, then when are they going to reopen? So these are the two questions that I like to ask if I were a parliament, because if I were the member of the parliament, because these are the two issues that are triggering the most to the students and to the teachers. So I would like to ask these two questions. You think what you would ask to what you would like to ask. All right, moving on to the next slide. Lawmaking. All right, as I told you that a bill is made a law. In order to create a law, first the bill has to be made and it has to be passed by the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Since Parliament has two houses, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, so if a law has to be made, the first bill has to be created. Then the bill has to be passed from the two houses, the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. First the Lok Sabha and then the Rajya Sabha. Only then the bill becomes a law and then it is acted by the president. So the Parliament has the right. Parliament comprises of two houses, so basically we here mean that both the houses have the right to pass the bills that amend some sections of the constitution. So basically what we're trying to say here is that the parliament, the two houses, has the right to create a bill to make the new laws as well as to change the existing laws of the constitution. Alright, moving forward, who are the people in the parliament? So basically the people in the parliament are called as a member of the parliament. Alright, that could be in Lok Sabha as well as in the Rajya Sabha. Now what happens is that now the member of the parliament belongs to different religions, belong to different states. Now there we can see that there is an increase in the rural members and the members of the regional parties. That is, now the MPs does not belong to only one particular religion or one particular caste. It has now the members from the rural areas has also come up and are becoming the member of the parliament. So here what I mean to say is that the members of the parliament are now more like the rural people are from the rural areas also are coming up to get elected as a member of the parliament. So we could say that there are more rural members as the member of the parliament. They has been increasing, and members from the regional parties. So basically regional parties means that a party for the particular state, like Bharatiya Janata Party has is for almost all the states in India, but regional parties are basically for only one state. Now let's say that Madhya Pradesh, there is a regional party who is just in Madhya Pradesh and not any other state, so that is the regional party. And now we can see that the members of parliament also belong to the rural members. They are also from the regional parties, and the people who give votes to these elected representatives, to their representatives, now Dalits and the OBCs, the other backward caste people, are also the number of participation from the Dalits and the other caste people is also getting increased. Earlier, the Dalits and OBCs used not to cast vote to elect their representative, whether it is MLA or MP. But now there is an increase in the participation. Now even the Dalits and OBCs vote to get to elect their MP or the MLA for the state or MP for the Lok Sabha. We can say that there is an increase in voter participation from the Dalit and OBC. So here we mean that the people who belong to the Dalit and the OBCs are now also casting vote and electing their representative. Earlier, these people used not to involve in the voting process, but now we can see that there is an increase in the voting participation from this part of the society also, that is Dalit and OBCs, other backward classes. Right. Yeah, so has people's participation during the past 65 years decreased, increased, been stable after initial increase? So this is basically a question wherein we have to analyze the table that has been given on the screen, and we have to tell that whether the people earlier used to we need to basically analyze that earlier the more people used to participate in the process of voting, or now are more people participating in the process of voting. So we'll start from the year 1951-52. We could see that 61% of the entire country is participating in the voting process. In 1967, we could see that 61.33. So here we could see a little increase. In 1971, it decreased. The voter participation decreased. Not many people participated in the process, only 55%. In 1977, we could see 60%. It increased. In 1984, we could see 64, which has been the highest by by now. In 2004, we could see that only 57% people participated in the process of voting and gave the vote, to elect their representative. In 2009, we can see that 67.19% of the people participated in the voting process. That is the highest. So we can say that earlier it was 61, then it decreased to 55, then it again increased, then it again decreased. So it is not stable, it keeps on increasing and decreasing. What we have analyzed is that in 1955 it was 61, then it dropped down, then it again increased. So it is not stable, it keeps on decreasing and keeps on increasing. The participation of the people to vote for their respective candidates keeps on increases. In 1971, that was the lowest, which was 55.29%. People only participated, in choosing the representative. 55% people only voted for the MLA or for the MP, and rest of them did not. Okay, moving on. All right. So, as I told you that the members in the parliament can belong to the rural areas, or they could be the members of the regional parties also. And now we can see that there are some seats which are reserved for only SCs and ST. What do we mean by this? We basically mean that in case that there could be only 250 MPs. We know that, right? We studied that in the previous slide, that there could be maximum 250 seats for the member of the parliament, under which let's assume that 20 are reserved for the SCs and STs only, and 15 for the women, and the rest for the other people who belongs to Bharatiya Janata Party, Congress and other parties, also the regional parties and the members from the rural areas. So here we could say that these 20 seats are only reserved for the SCs and STs, and this 15 seats are only reserved for the women. That means in this particular sector where these 20 seats are reserved for the SCs and STs, no other member can grab this seat. These seats are only reserved for the SCs and STs. This is what I mean to say, is that between these 250, 12 are going to be the ones which the president elects directly, right, which we studied. 20 are going to be the ones who will be SCs and STs. 15, this is the minimum, and 15 will be those for the women. So these are reserved in the parliament to become the member of the parliament. 20 seats have been reserved for the SCs and STs, and 15 are reserved for the women. Again, this is a hypothetical figure. We're just assuming the figures in order to make you understand. Alright, moving on. Okay, so there are some questions. Why do you think there are so few women in the parliament? Alright, so let's discuss this. So the reasons are quite obvious. Basically, we all know that we live in a society which is dominated by men, and so men could not accept the fact that women could be the member of the parliament and could make laws with them. We basically live in a society which is dominated by men, and so they could not accept that women can also become the member of the parliament and make laws for them. And even though 50%, more than 50% of the population comprises of women, still only 9% of the women are the member of the parliament, and the rest are the men. This is just because that just because of the thought process that the entire society is dominated by men, and so the men could only represent as the member of the parliament and not the women. That is because of the thoughts of the that women are recessive and men are dominated. That is why we can say that there are few women in the parliament and more men, even though more than 50% of the population comprises of women, but still 9% only represent as the member of the parliament, because men assume that they're just meant to dominate, and the women cannot make the laws. The women cannot work as equal in power as them. So just because of the thought process, just because we live in a society which is dominated by men, we could see that there are few women in the parliament. Alright, moving forward to the next question. Why do you think our national movement supported the idea that all the adults have the right to vote? So basically, as I told you, that there were nationalist leaders who were fighting for the independence, and at that time they realized that each and every citizen should be given the right to vote in order to indirectly participate in the decision making process of the law making of the country. Basically, this right gives the citizens to be a part of the decision making, which makes India a democratic country. So this adult suffrage of giving votes when you are above 18, or if you are 18, the eligibility, the right to vote, the right to give vote is a very very important fundamental right, as it gives the citizens the right to indirectly participate in the decision making process, get the right to vote for their elected representative who directly make the laws on the behalf of the citizens who have chosen them. So this is very important to make India a democratic country, which if each and every citizen is given the chance to vote, it would lead to more fairer decisions. People can directly elect the people that they want to make, that they want people should make laws. And so this makes India a democratic country. Question 3. The parliamentary form of government that exists in India has 3 tiers, including the parliament and the state legislatures. Fill in the following table. Which political party is in power? So first we have to answer for the state and then the center. For the center, we know it's the same for the all of us, that is Bharatiya Janata Party. For the state, it could be different. Since I live in Delhi, so the state government in Delhi is Aam Aadmi Party. It could be different if you live in some other state. Maybe if you live in Uttar Pradesh, the state government could be different. So find that out, that what is the state government in your state, and the center government is obviously the same for the all, that is the Bharatiya Janata Party. The second question is, who is the representative from your area? Now again, this could be different for all the areas. Since I live in Delhi and a very small constituency, so the MP, the representative from my area will definitely be different from the representative of your area. So by state we mean that the MLA, and by center we mean by the MP. So the MLA of my constituency where I live could be different than yours, and the MP of my constituency where I live could be different from where you live. Since MLAs are different for each constituencies and MPs are also different from each constituencies, so just in case that you want to know who is the MLA of my area, so he is Zubane Mishra, and who is the MP of my area, so that is basically Parvesh Singh, and Parvesh Singh is the member of the party Bharatiya Janata Party. So it's quite clear that the member of parliament from my area belongs to the party Bharatiya Janata Party. It could be different in your case, as you live in a different area, so the constituency of that area will give you the answer that who is your MLA and who is your MP. So just ask your parents or Google it, and you'll get to know the MLA of your area and MP of your area. So when were the elections last held? So the elections for the center government held last in 2019. That would obviously the same for the entire country, and that was 2019 when the people elected for the member of the parliament. But it could be different for every state. It could be, if I live in Delhi, the last elections held for the state government in Delhi were in 2020, and in the center government, which obviously will be the same for all of us, it held last in 2019, and after 5 years it will held again. In Delhi, it held in 2020. It could be different for your state. So basically, the state government, when the elections are for the state government, we elect for the MLA, and when the elections are for the central government, we elect for the MP. You might have understood by now. Alright, moving on. So this brings us to the end of the chapter, and there's a quick revision for you guys. The parliament enables the citizens of India to participate in the decision making and control the government. As I explained you guys, that each and every citizen has been given the right to vote, which basically indirectly involves them in the decision making process, since they are the ones who have elected the representatives, and those representatives further make the laws in the parliament. So this therefore gets the citizens involved in the decision making process, and in order to get elected they need to make a trust in the eyes of the citizens in order to get elected and make laws. So therefore we can say that citizens of the country controls the government, because they are the ones who elects the government, right? And they are the ones who get participation in the decision making indirectly, because they elect the representatives who further make the laws. The Constitution of Independent India laid down the principle of universal adult franchise, that all the adult citizens of the country have the right to vote. As I just told you, that each and every citizen has been given the right to vote for their representative, whosoever they want to. This process of voting for being eligible to vote is known as the universal adult franchise, and any person who is above the age of 18 or 18 has the right to vote, and the process is called as the universal adult franchise. Alright, the principle of democracy is consent, that is the desire, approval and participation of people, one way in which people give approval to the government through elections. What do we mean by this is that people, when come in consent, they form the government, they vote for their favorite candidate and chose their elected representative. Now in this particular way of voting, they are basically showing the approval to the government, and in case that they don't vote, as we studied in the previous slide, that there was a year when only 55% of the people were participated in the voting process. So there we can see that 55% people voted and showed their approval in the favor of the government by voting for their candidate, and the rest 45% of them basically showed disapproval against the government, that they do not want to participate in the decision making process or participate in the voting process. Alright, and there could be different methods other than the voting process to show disapproval or approval in the favor or against the government. And we also discussed that some people, they are engaged, they express their feelings, they express their opinions to the government by commenting on the social media, or being very active, forming groups, and even doing protests. So these are some ways through which people show their opinions, they express their opinions, they give an approval or the disapproval to the government. One is through election, the other is by forming groups and protesting, or the third one could be by being a part of social media, commenting and being active on the social media and criticizing, or even writing the letters to the editor. So this could be one of the ways, 3 to 4 ways I told you, that a person could get involved and can express their opinions to the government. The Lok Sabha is usually elected once every 5 years. Each of the constituencies elects one person to the Parliament. So the last point, which is the Lok Sabha is usually elected once every 5 years, as we have discussed that how the members of the Lok Sabha are elected, which are called as a member of the Parliament. After every 5 years, there are elections to elect the new members of the Parliament. And similarly in the case of MLA, as we discussed that there are different constituencies in a state. Similarly, in order to elect the member of the Parliament, there are different constituencies in the state, and whosoever gets the majority votes gets to become the member of the Parliament for that particular constituency. And this is how the member of Parliament are elected by the citizens of the country. Moving forward, alright, the Parliament selects the national government and controls, guides and informs it. It also plays a role in the lawmaking. So as we got to know that Parliament has two houses, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, and the bill has to be passed from both the houses in order to become a law. So this is how Parliament plays a role in the lawmaking, and it selects the national government and controls. Since we know that any government, any party which gets the maximum member of Parliament becomes the ruling party, and the second most party which gets the second most maximum number of member of Parliament becomes the opposition party, in order to create pressure on the ruling party whether they are doing everything right or wrongs. And the opposition party also has the right to question the ruling party whether the policies are being implemented properly or they are being followed properly, etc, etc, etc. So this basically creates an pressure on the ruling party that they have to work hard, they have to make new policies and they have to implement them properly, etc, etc. So the very next point is some seats are reserved in Parliament for the SCs and STs. Reservation of seats for women is still being debated. 60 years ago, only 4% of MPs were women. Alright, as we also discussed that there are some of the seats which are reserved for the SCs and STs, and Even though more than 50% of the population comprises of women, only 9% are the member of the parliament, and back then 60 years ago only 4% were the MPs, and that is why there is a reservation created for the women too in the parliament, so that the participation of women in the parliament increases. Students, this brings us to the end of the chapter, and we'll connect to the next chapter. We'll connect in the next video explaining the next chapter. By then, thank you so much for joining me on Study Zone.